All right, we have about a minute before we get started. Okay, I've got 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. This is the April 3rd, 2018 regular council meeting. Mr. Nevins, would you mind getting us started with a prayer? Oh, hit the little red button, the little red dot. There you go. Nope, turn it back off.
There we go. Okay, thank you. You join me in prayer, please. Thank you, Lord, for your great grace and provision. In your word, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. You've also said that if any are in need of wisdom, to ask, and you would give it generously. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our citizens, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Erlanger. It is in your most blessed name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. If you are not familiar with Brian Nevins, he is our police chaplain. Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the April 3rd, 2018 regular council meeting. Let's stand and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mrs. Hoffman, will you please take roll call?
Mr. Burke? Here. Mr. Cahill?
Here.
Ms. Kyle? Mr. Skidmore?
Here.
Ms. Sudkamp?
Here.
Ms. Cahill? Mr. Montgomery?
Here.
Ms. Skidmore?
Here.
Ms. Pitts?
Here.
Mr. Nicely? Ms. Fetty?
Here.
Mr. Blankenship?
All right, we have a quorum. Council, you've received a copy of the minutes from the March 6th, 2018 regular council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to be made at this time? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as written. A motion by Mr. Cahill, second by Mr. Burke. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, motion carried. You've also received a copy of the agenda for this evening's meeting, April 3rd, 2018. Are there any additions or changes to be made at this time? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt as written. Motion by Mr. Blankenship, second by Mrs. Pitts. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All right, motion carried. All right, we'll move on to the special presentations. First up, we've got a business spotlight. We've got Century Construction here this evening. Welcome, Mr. John Hodge.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to be here tonight and appreciate the opportunity to introduce you to Century Construction. I'm John Hodge, president of Century, and this year is a special year for us. April 1st, 2018 marked our 50th anniversary in business. And we've been in our 24 of those years here in Erlanger, and it's been a great location for us and a great city for us to do business, and we're proud to be here tonight. That's a picture of our office there. We're on Kenton-Lands Road. Many of you probably haven't seen it. It's kind of tucked away. We kind of like it. We don't have too much retail business, but it's a very good facility for us, and being close to 275 and I-75 makes it a perfect venue. There's our founders. My dad's on the left, Jack Hodge. He passed away in 2003, unfortunately, and his partners, Mike Rue and Mike Madgett. Mike Madgett just turned 80, so he spent 30 years. He's 30 years old. He started the company. He talked to my mom the other day and said we did pretty good for $1,000 a piece. I think better return than P&G stock. There's some pictures of some facilities we've constructed in the area. If some of you are parishioners of Mary Queen of Heaven or possibly St. Barb's, those are facilities we constructed in the last half dozen years or so. Very proud of those. And if any of your children go to Turkeyfoot Middle School, that was a project we also built. So we're very happy, especially the projects close to town that we can share with our neighbors and friends. We're involved in the community. We're involved in a lot of different organizations. Of course, the Building Industry Association of Northern Kentucky. We've been a member of Associated Builders and Contractors, I think, now for 45 years or so. One of the founding members, I think, of the Ohio Valley chapter. And, of course, Chamber of Commerce and Covington Business Council. Our managers are also involved in a lot of youth activities and also a lot of civic and social organizations and boards across northern Kentucky. I'm real proud of this slide. We do a lot of work besides our public work, like the schools and things like that. We work for a number of businesses on a year-round basis. We do a lot of work for St. Elizabeth Healthcare, a lot of remodel of doctor spaces and tenant spaces for them, for their leased buildings and their own buildings. We do a lot of work for Smuckers. They make their jams. Of course, they make Jif peanut butter down in Lexington, and they're a very good client of ours. And GE Aviation, right up here by the airport, is also a client we do work year-round. So we're very proud of those clients. We've been able to retain those and develop that business. Excuse me. This year is probably your favorite slide. The good news is we paid over $40,000 in taxes to the city of Erlanger last year. That was good. And I'm trying to grow that number. We've got, we're growing our office a little bit. Our payroll locally in Erlanger was $2.17 million last year. We have 64 employees, and if you know anybody who wants to get in trades, now's the time to do it, okay? I mean, college isn't for everybody. Go into the trades. A carpenter, a welder, a plumber, an electrician. The sky's the limit. I tell you, my son was going to plumbing school. There's himself and 2 other plumbers in the class. It's unsustainable. That's my preaching for tonight. Please have your sons, grandsons, neighbors consider that. There's lots of opportunities. My dad was a mason by trade. That's how he said, I can do this. I'll start my own business. And that's what he did in 1968. Safety, just real quickly, we do a lot of industrial work at those places I mentioned previously, so it's very important for us that we develop a safe attitude and all our employees work safely. And we invest quite a bit of money in that on a year-round basis, just like the police department or the EMTs, training and repetition and making sure all of our people knows the do and don'ts of working around in job sites. It's very important to us. And right now we're in this OSHA Challenge phase, which is a new program for OSHA that we're working our way through, and it's been very helpful for our management and for our employees. Currently, we're working, this project on the left is Ballyshannon Middle School for Boone County. That's about a $26 million project, and I need the pastor to pray for no rain. It's been tough getting this winter and spring, but that's open in August. On your right's the Hofbräu House. We built that originally, the first one outside of Munich, and right now we're working down there now, remodeling the bar and putting some outdoor space on right now. To the left is a new Gold Star Chili. That opened up in Westchester. And the project on the right is a new tilt-up building, the steel framing for that at Blue Star in Hebron. So we're very busy and active, and we're glad to be continuing on the path we started 50 years ago. And I think that's my last slide. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're glad you came. And as you mentioned, you started business in 1968. And so, yeah, this does mark your 50-year anniversary, so it's our distinct honor this evening to recognize you with a plaque.
Oh, great. Thank you.
All right, next up on the agenda, we've got a couple oaths of office. We've got E.J. Detmer and Chaz Matthews. If you guys wouldn't mind coming up to the front. Do you have somebody to hold your Bible? Do you have a Bible? I've got two up here. Two Bibles.
David can come up.
Mr. Gatlin was just making fun of me because I have two cell phones, and it's a long story, but this evening I have two watches on. I've got two Bibles. I've got two attorneys. We got everything. Two of everything up here. Two new officers. All right. Gentlemen, take and you'll put your left hand on the Bible, your right hand up. And so I'll ask you to say I do at the end. Chaz Matthews and Edward Detmer. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully execute to the best of your ability the office of police officer according to law, and do further solemnly swear that since the adoption of the present Constitution, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within this state nor out of it, nor have you sent a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have you acted as second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offending so far, so help you God. All right, congratulations. Welcome. All right, the next we've got the announcement of retirement. We've got Officer Todd Mitchell. Was anybody going to speak about? Okay, right. And Jan Cassidy, is Jan? She couldn't be here either, okay. Well, they've both had fruitful careers here in the city, and we're sorry to see them go, but get to that time in one's career where it is time to retire, and glad for them to be moving on to the next part of their lives. Chief, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the podium. It's not called a podium. Lectern.
Todd's retirement party is April 16th, 11 to 1. If you wish to attend, please RSVP to Lisa so we can get the correct amount of food here. Thank you.
Okay. Don't go too far. All right, next we've got the service pins. Thank you. Mr. Kramer?
Thank you. Probably don't need to do this big, long intro. You don't have to read it. I'll read it. But I think everybody knows who Todd Brindle is, but he's celebrating his 20th year this month. And so I'll say a few things for the few people that might not know him. Todd did grow up in Ellesmere. He graduated from Lloyd in 1985, lettering in both baseball and swimming. His pictures are still up in the hallways. We have a couple copies just in case. After graduating high school, he joined the Air Force. He was obviously intelligent and went that route as opposed to the Army. In 1986, after his discharge, he became a police officer in Illinois in 1990. He moved back to Northern Kentucky in 92 and worked for the Kent County Sheriff's Office. And then he was hired with the city of Erlanger in 1998. 99, Todd was assigned as the first student resource officer in Erlanger. He served at Tishner Middle School. His duties included DARE and assistant administration in the daily operations to keep a safe school environment. Todd's SRO service was very bright. He was instrumental in implementing 4 pilot programs for the school district. Many of them were recognized statewide and a couple nationwide. iStick program was recognized as one of 8 in the nation. Another program was the Sprint PCS phone call for safety, was recognized as first in the nation. And that was all because of Todd's hard work in supporting those programs. Todd was president of the Lodge 55 FOP, president of Kentucky Association of School Resource Officers. He was a regional representative for Kentucky Association of School Resource Officers, a national instructor for Youth Crime Watch. He actively supports Special Olympics and such events as Polar Bear Plunge and Trivia Night. 2010, Todd was brought back to patrol, and he served there until 2012 when he was promoted quickly to the rank of sergeant. 2015, he advanced to the rank of lieutenant. 2016 to assistant chief, and I had the pleasure in 2018 to promote him to the position of chief. So I really appreciate your service, Todd. Personally, I want to thank you for your friendship and your support over the last 6 months. It's meant a lot to me. We've had a lot of frequently spirited debates, which I enjoy. But it's good. You know, I get a lot of honesty from you, and it really makes a difference in my job. So I really appreciate it.
Just real quick, thank you. It's been 20 years. I won it 20 years ago. It was the happiest day of my life. Getting to be a part of Erlanger was my dream job. Never thought I'd be in this position today. Hopefully I'll be around for several more years. You'll allow me to participate. But thank you. It's a great city. You can't express to people outside what a great environment it is to work here. And a lot of that's due to you all. Supporting us, getting us what we need, and that's important. I see so many of my friends, they're in this job, and they don't have that support. The city doesn't take care of them, stand with them. We have great citizens that support us, and I just want to say thank you.
All right, next we will open up the floor for citizen and public comments. Did anybody sign up to speak this evening? Okay. We should have a list here. Thank you, Bill. All right. Chad, you're first up. Yep. If you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself for the record.
Absolutely. My name is Chad Molly. I am the Assistant Superintendent at Erlanger-Ellesmere Schools. And I wanted to be here tonight as I know you are considering later on in your agenda the first reading of an ordinance related to implementation of a school zone out here on Commonwealth near Baker Avenue. And just wanted to express our thanks from the school district for your consideration of that ordinance and helping us in keeping our kids safe each and every day as they come to and from school. We have a great many kids who do walk to and from our schools, especially here on the campuses at Tishner and Lloyd. As they are getting a little bit older in age, they do start to travel a little bit. And that is a difficult crossing for them. So I know from our standpoint, we will continue to educate our kids as we do very often, reminding them of the proper way to cross at the crosswalks with the light, not against. Certainly appreciate the city and the Erlanger police in helping us with putting a crossing guard down there to assist with that safety. But again, just very thankful of your support as a city council to our school district in many ways, not only just this ordinance. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Okay, next we have Tom Bridenstine. Thank you. And think about it for a second.
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, Tom Bridenstine, the attorney on behalf of Marcus and Harriet Carey. I'm not here to present or discuss anything. I'm just here to register my appearance and to make ourselves available for any questions at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have a question? Sorry, I didn't see it. Okay. All right. Are there any other citizens that would like to speak that did not get a chance to sign up? Seeing none, we'll move on. All right, to the mayor's report. It's been a busy month. We had the furlong ribbon cutting ceremony this past month. That was a nice event. There on Price Avenue. Great to see a company fill up the old vacant building, the old candy factory. A lot of people refer to it as the candy factory. We also had an opportunity, Mr. Kramer and Councilwoman Fetty and I had a chance to go down to Frankfurt on March 21st and got a chance to meet with Representative Koenig, Representative Moser, and Senator McDaniel, and had an opportunity to speak with them about some of the issues with the pension. I know Mrs. Pitts also organized a meeting up here at the City Building with Representative Koenig as well, and 6 other council members, so that was also good. It seemed to be well received by Representative Koenig. We also had thanks to Mr. Hahn, he set up several meetings here recently as well with Toyota Bushaku and ADM. Those were also great meetings with them. They are both large employers in our city, and they're very happy to be here. We had coffee with a cop at McDonald's, which seemed like another success, and I know that there's probably another one of those being scheduled as well. '14th, that might be another. I hope I didn't steal someone else's thunder there. All right. At White Castle, is that what I heard? Okay, great. I'm proud to announce that Jessica Fetty was voted into the PDS Management Board. I believe this is the first time and we've had an Erlanger representative on that board. That is is it a 5-person or 6-person board? 6-person board. And that is kind of the board that steers PDS in general. So glad to have her representing us there. She was the top vote getter in that position. We had a mayor's group meeting in Fort Mitchell on March 17th. Topics of discussion there included mostly the pension crisis. We also discussed public works and the sharing of the road plans with PDS. A lot of times PDS and, well, mainly PDS, they use Erlanger as kind of the model city. We do a good job of sharing our road plans with them so that they can help organize other utility work to coordinate with the other road repairs. And so we need to keep that up. Our Public Works has been doing a good job with that. Another thing that got brought up was the radio system. And this I'm addressing to Chief Brendel and Chief Whitaker. It got brought up that Tommy Thompson got a chance to talk about it and say that right now the actual radio has not been selected. But we do have an opportunity right now, and he urged the chiefs to talk in the chiefs group meetings to discuss what model you prefer. And I guess they're not looking at one model for the entire county because a lot of times the firemen want a radio with big knobs that they can handle with gloves on and can handle 280 degrees or whatever the heck. And the policemen want something that's smaller, sleeker. So what the point that they got across to us was that it doesn't have to be the same vendor. These can be different models, different manufacturers. So make sure that you're talking about that, and so we get the best for all departments. The next mayor's group meeting, by the way, will be in Fort Wright on April 21st. And then also, Steve Hensley had mentioned, this is another note for Public Works as well. Steve Hensley was talking about damages due to flooding. Have we reported any kind of flooding, or did we have any damages? He was thinking that maybe we had sustained some damage down off of, we did report it.
We did report there was some slippage on Pleasure Isle, but I believe they determined that was part of the state right-of-way. Is that correct? Okay, so it did not affect Erlanger.
Okay. Great, thank you. All right, that's all I had to report. If there's no questions for me, then we'll move on. Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is our reports of committees. First is Public Safety, the Police. Mrs. Setkamp? Get your mic there, Patty, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you. Of course, Chaz and Patrolman Detmer were both sworn in tonight. We welcome them to our family. The CRO gave tours to a Cub Scout troop and Tishner Middle School students. The police department participated in the job fair at Lloyd High School. Erlanger Police Explorers held their trivia night. I heard that was a great time. Detectives did arrest the carjacking suspect from Elm Street. The suspect wasn't from Elm Street. He stole the vehicle on Elm Street. I want to make that perfectly clear. All officers have qualified at the range this month. This was the first range with the new optics for the rifles, and the officers' scores were notably higher, they say, which is great. Congratulations to all of them. And now I would like to bring up what Chad mentioned about the school crossing zones. We've had 2 individuals struck within the past couple of months. Luckily, we have not had a fatality. But it's probably my feeling that probably 50% of the people that travel east and westbound on Commonwealth have no clue that that's a school zone unless they have a student that goes to Tishner or Lloyd. So I really feel that we definitely need a school crossing. They have school crossing on Turkey Foot. They have school crossing on Dixie Highway for St. Henry. We need to protect our students, and it's my understanding is that the school board is willing to absorb 1/2 of the cost of doing so. We have applied to the state, not to real much avail so far, right? I mean, they say it's okay if we do it, but I don't think they're going to give us any money.
No, I think chances are. The first time they came back, they said no. We persisted and gave a couple of reasons why. So now they're currently doing, well, I think they've already done the pedestrian counts, and they're just completing their research on it. So
Okay, great.
I do expect to get something from them. It'll be a fight if not.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I would like to make a motion that we go through with the school crossing signage on Commonwealth. It will lower the speed limit, which is another thing that it will do. It'll just make people aware that there's children that cross there, and elderly people, I mean pedestrians, anybody. So it's just a wake-up call for everybody, I think, traveling that busy intersection. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. And just to clarify, well, I guess we have a motion on the floor.
Yes,
Do we have
sir.
a second? Second by Mr. Blankenship. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. And just one clarification there. Mr. Kramer, I think you had mentioned a $16,000 amount. Was that the half, or was that the full cost?
That was the full cost. And I think the high end between 16 to 20,000, if we're just estimating, if that is assuming that state would not put any money into it, and that would be shared with the school district. I do expect the state to fund Commonwealth, though, so I think the cost to us, assuming that they do that, would be minimal, because all we would have to pay for would be the Baker Street signs.
Okay. So we're talking about $8,000 to $10,000 cost for the city, worst case scenario. Okay. Mr. Nicely, did you have something?
These 2 kids, when they crossed Commonwealth, was he crossing with the light, or was he trying to beat a car?
There were 3 that crossed against the light. 3 of them got hit, 2 were transported.
They were crossing against the light.
Correct.
What makes you think how many lights we get there is going to keep the kids from not crossing against the lights on anything else.
Again, you know, we've talked to the school, they educate, it's not going to catch everything. And I'm in agreeance with you that it won't solve the problem completely. What it will do is bring attention to the area. It'll slow the speeds down, so if somebody does get struck, as opposed to getting struck 35 miles an hour by a vehicle, it'll be 25.
So instead of getting hit by a 35 miles an hour car, you're going to get hit by 25 miles. That doesn't solve a problem.
It doesn't solve it, but I do believe that it will make some sort of
You're
impact.
just not going to get as hurt as bad, hopefully.
Well, I think the hope is that the additional signage, the flashing lights is going to raise people's awareness that the cars need to be paying as much attention as the kids.
Then are we going to put a caution light on Halbert?
That's not the plan at this point.
And what about Cali? That's kids cross those. There's lights there, crosswalk.
We can research both of those if you'd like us to. The reason this was brought up was because of the 3 kids that were hit last month. This is the second time a pedestrian's been hit in the last 7 months, so that's why this particular area has been brought up recently.
Well, my problem is, from my thinking, is how whatever we put up, is that going to keep someone from not crossing on the red light? Is that going to solve the problem?
Of course not, Mr. Nicely.
right.
You can never predict what a child is going to do. And you should know that as well as any of the rest of us being a father. This is to make people aware, the drivers aware. They can even be looking out for children that maybe they weren't even considering in that area. If it saves one life, it's well worth the money.
I go along with you 100%, but you're not going to put lights up when you've already got them, keeping people. I've seen people, and you have to cross Interstate 75.
Well, I can't fix stupid.
Okay. We've had a motion and a second. We've voted on this. If you would like to be on the record as voting no, that would be okay, but otherwise, we're going to go ahead and move on. Okay. You want to be on the record as saying no? Okay. It was an aye. Yeah, you're right. You're right. A motion to have the first reading? Okay, okay. Okay, so we'll have a first reading. Yeah.
I don't know if there's been a vote on the, I don't know, maybe I was missing. Was there a vote?
Everybody voted in favor with an aye.
Okay.
Yeah, but the majority voted with an aye. Okay. Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Or actually, I'm sorry, Mrs. Setkamp. Was there anything else to report? Chief? Okay, nothing further. So we'll move on to Fire EMS. Mrs. Pitts, Mrs. Fetty? All right. So for the record, I'll say that into the mic. Chief Whitaker said that everybody received the monthly report, and he's here for questions, and it doesn't look like we have any questions. Oh, we do have a question.
I just have a comment. I wanted to publicly thank the Fire and EMS Department for paying homage to a dear friend of mine and a dear friend of the city of Erlanger with the passing of Colonel Woody Woodward. He was my mentor on the squad. We've remained friends for over 40 years. It was very difficult to lose him. And there's only one current member on the fire department that ran with Woody, and that was Rick Bowl. But they all came, and I pulled into the cemetery, and there they all were, all lined up and dressed to the nines, and they presented Woody's family with a flag. And it was absolutely beautiful, and they were touched deeply, and I just wanted to thank them for myself.
All right, thank you. Next, we have then Public Works, Mr. Cahill, Mr. Skidmore.
Yes,
I know Public Works has been out trying to take care of the ballparks and stuff, so just have patience. The weather's been bad and they can't do much with them. They've been doing a good job on taking care of a lot of the potholes. I know they've been out cleaning the streets too, but the way the weather is, it's almost impossible some days to get anything done. So, but they're doing great. So just have patience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so a couple of things. We do have one bid we'll be presenting tonight, and also I'd like to bring up the, and this will be for a vote, the Narrows and Nelson Road alignment. We've had a lot of discussion about the new development on Narrows Road, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So Mr. Viox made this a suggestion. Since we are in a development, as planned for the List Farm, it'd be a good time to fix the intersection at Narrows and Nelson. That was a large complaint from a lot of the people that came up and spoke that evening. So we actually, on March 5th, were sent preliminary drawings. Dries would be involved. They would donate a small amount of land from their development, and they would also allow us to use the fill dirt needed to raise the roadway. This would lessen the grade from Nelson, align the intersection better, and I believe this would be a good plan and idea, and I'd like to make sure we can get that out for bid. And that's a form of a motion.
All right, so we have a motion. Is that a second?
I have a comment. I wanted to bring in the fact that I also suggested we finish the sidewalk while we've got the whole area torn up.
Yep,
The sidewalk on the west side?
Mhm.
Is that referred?
that makes sense. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion. Second by Mrs. Fetty. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. All right. Anything else, Mr. Cahill?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Wilson in the house? Okay, thank you. All right, next up then is administration. Mrs. Skidmore.
I have nothing, but Sherry's in the house.
The mayor had mentioned earlier that Jan Cassidy is retiring at the end of the month, so you guys will be seeing a change in our department. Steve Canfield is going to be replacing Jan as our administrative clerk, and then we have hired Nyoka Johnson as our new front desk clerk, and she starts next Monday. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you. All right, next up is finance and business development. Mr. Blankenship, Mr. Montgomery.
The staff has been finalizing work on the fiscal year 2018 amended budget and the fiscal year 2019 proposed budget, and we would like a committee meeting for April the 17th to discuss the changes that have been made to the budget since our March 3rd meeting. Also, the first reading of the ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2018 budget and approve the 2019 budget is going to be on May the 1st, and we want that on the agenda, and the second reading and formal approval will then be on the June 5th council meeting. Also, we've advertised for proposals for accounting firms to perform the city's audits for fiscal years 2018, 19, and 20, and those proposals are due and will be open on April the 12th. That's all I have. Steve? Mr. Bodie? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we've got the codes, building, and zoning. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Question?
No, I just wanted to give a small update on the Erlanger Business Association. I went to the CBC, the Covington Business Council meeting last Wednesday. After the meeting, I sat down with Pat Frew, who's the executive director. He is extremely interested in helping Erlanger get this association started. His suggestion was to have a meeting, like an introductory meeting, to gauge interest with our businesses. We'd like to do something in the month of June. He will be the presenter. He'll explain how the Covington Business Council works. And then I also had 3 of the participants within the CBC come to me and say they wanted to give testimony at our introductory meeting to explain to our local businesses how it's benefited their organization. So I'll be putting together a date in June. I'm thinking a Tuesday morning. They meet on Wednesday mornings, and it's very early, 8:30, very quick in and out. I see the introductory meeting being the same type of thing. So if anybody's interested in assisting me with getting this started, picking a date, just let me know after this meeting and we can sit down and talk about it, okay?
All right, thank you. All right, next then, we've got the Codes, Building, and Zoning, Mr. Burke, Mr. Nicely. Hit your mic.
Only thing we have is the property on Hallam behind the tire place down there. You know, the guy wanted to buy it, then he didn't, now he wants to buy it again. So I'd like to know what you guys want to do. You want administration to handle it, or get prices, what it's worth?
Would we start by surplusing it, or do we want to try to appraise it first? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
One of the first things we need to do is to get the plot survey, thank you. We have to do the survey, and then from then on, we would have to do the surplus. We could surplus it whenever, but we would have to get the survey done and then put it out for bid.
I just hate the thought of it becoming even a bigger parking lot.
Again, every bid that we receive, though, we can reject.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so is that, do you want to put that in the form of a motion, Mr. Burke? Yes, sir. Okay, motioning to surplus? Okay. Does that need to be done during the legislation? Okay, so we've got a motion to surplus the property on Hallam. I'm sorry, yeah, motion to begin it. Yeah, thank you. Motion to begin the surplusing process. Is that a second, Mrs. Sedkamp? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Nicely?
I second it.
Oh, okay. You can third it, then. We have a motion and a second.
Oh, I thought you-
Any other discussion?
I thought you had the first. Patty
Okay.
seconded.
And
Okay.
seeing none, then we'll, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carried.
Mr. Hahn is in the house. You have anything, Dave? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. You've heard the reports of the committees. Do I entertain a motion that we adopt, adopt as presented this evening? Motion by Mr. Montgomery, second by Mr. Blankenship. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, next then, moving on, we've got the reports of representatives. Are there any representatives' reports this evening? Mrs. Sedkamp, I saw your hand first. If you wouldn't mind hitting your thanks.
In Mrs. Kyle's absence, I'll do the Historical Society. Pat Hahn wanted to know that volunteers helped with the Tishner Middle School City Government Day field trip. Their current projects, are Carter and Mayo Taylor genealogy. Museum hours will be Tuesday through Thursday, 12 to 3, and Saturday, 2 to 5. The caboose hours are Saturday, 12 to 3. The next meeting will be on April the 11th at 7 p.m. at the depot. This sounds like fun. Their presentation will be on casino parties of the 50s and 60s. Woohoo! Everybody bring your die. They've got an upcoming field trip day to the Dismore House, Towsey House Tavern, and BCHS Museum, wherever that is. Oh, okay. For more information, though, you can call Pat at 727-2630 and leave your number. And she wants everybody to know that National Train Day is Saturday, May the 12th. Thank you.
All right, I saw some other hands go up. Mr. Cahill?
I actually have two reports, Mayor. So for OKI, there's going to be a workshop on the surface transportation for Northern Kentucky and transportation alternatives. That's on April 19th from 9 to 10. I'll be planning on to attend that. If anybody else is interested, you need to get back with PDS as soon as possible, because it is limited for that, by the end of business on April 13th. And Northern Kentucky Health Department had an open house on March 14th, and that was also my first meeting I attended. So.
All right, thank you. I think I saw Mrs. Skidmore.
I've got two things, so don't let me forget the second one, okay?
Okay.
Kenton County Alliance met today from noon to 2. Miss Kentucky had visited Northern Kentucky Kenton County schools and spoke to the students. She talked about being disappointed that she could not sing for her talent because she did not possess that talent. She was very disappointed. She explained to the students that there are disappointments in life, but that is life. She interacted with them. She went on to tell them that even the organizers of the talent part of Miss Kentucky told her she could not sing. They suggested that she yodeled. She pursued that and overcame her disappointment and went on to win the Miss Kentucky title.
Wow.
So. And then Miles and Linneman schools have been chosen for the Caterpillar Metamorphosis Garden. The students raise the caterpillars and care for them from caterpillar to butterfly and set them free in the spring. This has worked well and empowers the students with self-confidence. Kenton County Alliance will also again participate in the Sticker Shock Liquor program. It is also named Sticker the Liquor. Local businesses who sell liquor agree to let volunteers put anti-drinking stickers on the beer boxes. It is to deter drinking and to put the adults on notice that the adults could get into trouble if they purchase liquor for underage students. Saturday, April the 28th is National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. Joan Bowling announced that the new Kenton County Extension office that used to be in the Kmart Plaza will be moving into their new building across from the library on Kenton Lands Road. Right, David? Okay. And then Sun Behavioral Health at 820 Dalwick Drive will soon be fully operational. This facility will have a tentative date of opening in May. There will be 197 beds, and it will be a treatment facility for substance abuse and issues. There will be no cost assessment for patients. This facility will offer help for adults, children, and families. At this time, only inpatient treatment is offered for children and adolescents. The adults with mood disorders can also be accommodated when the facility is fully operational. And in the near future, more services and treatments will be offered. There is a phone number that is operational at this time if you have additional questions, because I'm sure if I continue talking about it, I will mess something up. So it is 859-446-0115. And the other thing I wanted to mention was Government Day. It was awesome. I rode backwards on the bus for like 8 hours and still remained standing. The kids had a great time. One of the teachers was confused she was mistaken for a student. I did the same thing, Todd. I'm like, where's the second teacher? I guess I'm really getting old. But
I know which one you're talking about. I thought the same.
But we passed out goodie bags. Kenton County Alliance supplied the bags. And then the library provided pencils. There was different organizations within the Kenton County Alliance that donated things. The fire department put in fidget spinners, and the police department put in Frisbees. Kenton County Parks put in jump ropes and Frisbees. We had pens. And the library put in pencils that when they got warm, they changed colors. The blue pencils turned to white, so they were the most popular because of Kentucky Wildcats. End of report.
All right. I want to go ahead and just register my disappointment that you didn't sing that report or yodel it, but I'll get over it. All right, are there any other, Mrs. Pitts?
Two things. The Municipal Government League, Megan is having a heck of a time trying to get this to take back off, so it's still nowhere. Okay. The Stevenson Road Committee met, and Matt has collected pictures and videos from us for PDS to use for their storyboard analysis. In the meeting, we created 7 zones and discussed priority and safety issues with each zone. We're currently we have a few people to do interviews with PDS for this analysis. Are we still looking for 1 or 2 more? So yeah, we need about 1 or 2 more that live on Stevenson or by Stevenson that could express issues that they've had while living there. And Matt, is there anything you wanted to add to this?
All right, thank you. Any other reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to the reports of city operations. City Engineer, Mr. Biaux. It's the one next to it.
There we go. Thank you. The well, first of all, the sidewalk project that we have under contract is moving along very briskly. And as we indicated back when we awarded that contract, we intend to utilize the entire amount of funds that were available in phase 1. So we're continuing to move on to the limit of those funds in this year's budget. Secondly, Monday you're going to start seeing work on perimeter. The water main was completed there. We awarded a contract for the street replacement on perimeter, and that work will start on Monday. At the same time, the water district completed the work on Riggs Avenue and Erlanger Road to Baker Street. The contractor will be starting Monday to replace the street in that area. That project also includes the renovation of the broken section of the sidewalk going to be incorporated in the construction of the street. The water district took bids recently for the rest of the 12-inch water line extension on Erlanger Road from Riggs Avenue to the interstate, which will eventually service the Showcase Cinema property because there's limited water there. And they also took bids for the replacement of the water main on the balance of Birch. Both of those streets are in next year's budget to be replaced to follow up after the water main is done. And based on what you're going to see in a minute when I present the bids for Silver Lake and Churchill, the current competition for concrete street replacement is very good. We're going to see a tremendous amount of savings in this project, and I hope to experience considerable savings in the next projects. They're in next year's budget, but to accelerate the projects and take advantage of this, we're going to take bids and present them to you on the first meeting in June, and the contractor will obviously not be completing enough work to submit cost or invoices to the city till after July 1. Therefore, it will be a month ahead of the schedule this year and try to get past some of the issues with around the schools, take advantage of the additional cost savings that you're going to see here we've saved in this project. And we're going to do a third project, which is going to be the balance of Woodland Hills Drive out to Turkeywood Road, which can start immediately because we're not waiting on a water line replacement. And then this evening, you've indicated you wanted to pursue the completion of the intersection in Narrows and Nelson to satisfy the need to meet the DRE schedule, because if you didn't meet the DRE schedule, you would be faced with replacing some of their street to solve the problem. So we're going to try to put it up so we can receive those bids at the same time, first meeting in June, if it's possible. Patty indicated she wanted a sidewalk incorporated in it, and I understood that was going to happen. We probably won't be able to get that taken care of by that same date because that one's going to require some right-of-way acquisition. But as soon as we can solve that problem, we'll get the sidewalk built too. That's all I have, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Biaux. Yeah, I think that council has expressed in the past, you know, just kind of in general, whenever we're looking at road work, that we should entertain looking at the sidewalk. If there's not sidewalk there, entertain what the cost would be to add sidewalk along with the project. And if sidewalk exists, then looking at the shape of the sidewalk, making sure that we keep the sidewalk in good shape throughout the city. Thank you. All right, City Attorney, Mr. Gatlin.
Yes, Mayor, we have three pieces of legislation on this evening. We have a second reading as it relates to the pay plan for the newly created positions of front desk clerk that moved from Band K to Band M, as well as the newly created position of TAC officer crime analyst on Band B. We also have the second reading on the zoning map amendment on the property that I'll affectionately refer to as the Cary property. And then we have a first reading on the motion that was made this evening on creation of the school zone there on Commonwealth and Baker Street. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you. And we've got the City Council Attorney, Mr. Wickman.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, then we have the City Administrator, Mr. Kramer.
Yes, thank you. This past week, the pension bill has been passed. Yesterday, although I haven't seen it, the phase-in for it was additionally passed. That should limit the increase to 12% over 10 years. There's some conflicting understanding whether that's 10 years or 12% for the 10-year period or 12 each year, so we're still kind of dissecting that. You can read it either way. So I'm sure it's 12% each year, but until then, we will look into that, but that's still very new to digest. We did send out, the PD sent out an RFP for towing franchise this week, I believe it was, or was it Friday? The last week. And the only other thing to add is the staff and I are conducting the initial stages to create a citywide parks plan. And if any council members have any ideas or would like to get more involved with that, right now it's Rick Bogart, myself, Ed Bailey, who's doing a lot of the grants for it, and Dave Hahn. So if any questions, that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. It seems like it would naturally fall under Public Works. Okay, good, thank you guys. All right, so you've heard the reports of our representatives of city and city operations. Do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented? Motion by Mrs. Pitts, second by Mrs. Sudkamp. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All right, motion carried. Next, Mrs. Hoffman, do we have any correspondence this evening?
We do, sir. The Montgomery family sent a card thanking the city for their support after the loss of a loved one, and Habitat of Humanity thanked the city for their support in reference to 3410 Cowie Avenue.
All right, thank you. Any other correspondence? Seeing none, we'll move on to the bids. First is the Churchill and Silver Lake concrete project.
Yes, sir. These are Churchill, Silver Lake, and Churchill are the last two streets in this year's budget. Included in that is a storm sewer improvement because Silver Lake Avenue had no storm sewers on it, and we have stormwater that discharges through a flume out into the street, and also there's no place to receive water off of some undeveloped land. Mr. Bogart and I worked with the sanitation district and got them to agree to pay for half the cost of the storm sewer improvement. So that's incorporated in this. And also the sidewalk restoration that the mayor just talked about is incorporated in this also. Okay, if you turn to the last page, we had three bidders. JPS Construction at $493,629.50. Second bidder was M&W Excavation Company Incorporated at $496,421.75. And third was Paul Michaels and Sons Incorporated at $589,416.50. Go back to the front page, you'll see that the sanitation district is paying $90,730.08 of the total cost of their portion of the storm sewer portion. Therefore, the total cost of the project to the city is $497,890.56. At the bottom, you'll see under the Erlanger portion of the estimate dated, we're under the Erlanger portion of the estimate dated 1/24/18, which we did prior to the project, by $50,044.66. There's about a 10% savings currently being experienced, and that's why I want to accelerate the rest of the project. So it's my recommendation we award the work to JPS Construction.
All right, do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Cahill, second by Mrs. Pitts. Any discussion? Let's have a roll call vote.
Ms. Sudkamp?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nicely?
Yes,
Ms. Pitts?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Fetty?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blankenship? Mr. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, motion carried. Sign that contract.
And that work will start next Monday also.
Work will start next Monday, okay? Thank you, Mr. Viox. Any other bids this evening?
No, sir.
Okay. Any old business to discuss? Any new business to discuss? Mr. Cahill?
A couple things I forgot. Ralph Sidnor, his oldest sister passed away, and we want to just think of him and keep him in your prayers. And then also, I was approached by a neighbor to recall Little Brooklyn that died of DIPG. They're looking at putting up a memorial bench for her, and I just want to consider if we could take a look at that. They want to do it up at the Viox Park, the flagship park, so something to do up there. And they're willing to put in the plaque and maintain or anything that we do once we get that in there, so.
Okay. I don't see any reason why we would object to that. Do you?
No.
You know, and that, I'm glad you mentioned that because there were some residents on Misty Creek that want to do some improvements to the Misty Creek Park as well. And they had a meeting there and with some of those folks, and that talking about the same types of things, adding in some park benches, maybe a picnic bench, maybe a paved area that those would sit on. And I spoke with Mr. Bogart about it, and he said he thought that we could do some things to help, but also welcome their involvement as much as possible as well. So, thank you. Any other new business? Mr. Skidmore?
This is old business, I guess. There was a resident in Cherry Hill. He was complaining about the trucks are still going through Queensway and Cherry Hill. I don't know what else we can do to try to straighten that out, but he said they're still going through there. I know they've got up signs and different things, but I don't know what the answer is to it now.
Okay.
So.
Turn on your mic. It's hard enough to hear. I think, is there a fallout shelter here? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I had that same issue with one of the residents over there back last year it was during election time. And they must get, whoever's driving those trucks must be of ethnic origin, okay? And they're probably told, take the first road to the left. That's not the first, that is the first road to the left. If they go on up to the light, that's the one they need to turn on to get to the expressway. But Public Works they had signs put up and everything, and for a while it stopped, but they must have different truck drivers now or something.
All right, thank you. I think everybody's eyebrows are raised. If you can see outside, the hail is huge. I think we're all going to have insurance claims in the morning. All right. So Mr. Kramer said he's going to check into that as well. Thank you.
Oh, no, not
Right, the city's...
Can we put the police cars inside? Okay. Sorry here. Okay, so we'll move on to legislation. We'll hurry up so you guys can get out in this. First one is an ordinance regarding the amended pay scale. This is a second reading.
This is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, amending the pay plan to move the position of front desk clerk from Band K to Band M, and to add a newly created position of TAC officer crime analyst to Band K. There is a small typo in the whereas section that we will fix. That it should state that obviously the two new positions are TAC officer and crime analyst. And attached to this ordinance under section 1 is the pay wage plan, which does list those pay ranges. This is a second reading.
All right, do we have a motion to accept? Motion by Mrs. Sudkamp, second by Mrs. Skidmore. Any discussion? All right, we'll have a roll call vote.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sudkamp?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blankenship?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Fetty?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Pitts?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nicely?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, motion carried. Next is an ordinance regarding the Marcus Carey property. This is also a second reading.
This is an ordinance amending the zoning map of the City of Erlanger, County of Kenton, Kentucky for an area of approximately 1.24 acres, located approximately 200 feet northwest of Dixie Highway between Price Avenue to the northeast and McAlpin Avenue to the southwest, approximately 250 feet southwest of Price Avenue, changing the area from R1F, a single-family residential zone, to NC, a neighborhood commercial zone. By summary, this is a map amendment that was recommended by KCPC. Is adopted and amended on the following basis. The proposed zoning is appropriate and the current zoning is inappropriate. The evidence submitted at the hearing held on January 4th, 2018, and the proposed zone meets the Kenton County Vision 2030 comprehensive plan. It is indicated on Exhibit A where this zone change is happening, as well as there is an attachment of the conceptual site development plan stage 1 submission. This also is a second reading.
All right, do I entertain a motion to adopt as read? Motion by Mr. Nicely, second by Mr. Burke. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Ms. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nicely?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Pitts?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Montgomery? Ms. Fetty?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blankenship?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sudkamp?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, motion carried. Next is an ordinance regarding the school zone. First reading.
This is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, establishing a school zone with traffic control devices and speed limits. By summary, pursuant to KRS 189-336, the city can authorize by ordinance speed limits and erection of flashing lights in school zones. This is a school zone that has been established on Commonwealth Avenue, 660 feet from the intersection of Baker Street, extending both directions from said intersection, and on all of Baker Street based on its length of only 350 feet. The speed limit being adopted pursuant to KRS is 25 miles per hour.
All right, we'll let the record show that we've had the first reading. All right, if there's no other items, I would entertain a motion that we adjourn. Motion by Mrs. Fetty, second by Mr. Nicely. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
We broke all records.
Where's the?